What's going on, everybody? Michael Silva here to do a technical analysis update on the S&P 500. We will be taking a look at the SPX on multiple time frames to get us a good idea and sense of direction where we think the market is heading. Today's date is Friday, May 15th. The markets have closed for the weekend on some pretty important news. Retail sales numbers came out down 16%, which is down 36% from the forecast. Tensions between US and China have increased. They blocked semiconductor shipments from Huawei. And to top all of that off, the Federal Reserve came out and spoke on asset prices remaining vulnerable to significant price declines should the pandemic take an unexpected course. In other words, the stock market is vulnerable to another pullback. Let's go ahead and hop into my computer and go over the technicals. Shoot! Welcome to the computer. We are here looking at the SPX to do a technical analysis update. I'm going to look at the weekly time frame, the daily, and the hourly, and just point out a couple things that are of interest to me. First thing here on the weekly chart is that it does look like the MACD is kind of losing momentum to curl back upwards. Keep in mind though, things like this are lagging indicators. They can change, and it is still below zero, so you don't hold too much weight on that, but it's worth notifying. The next thing that I noticed is an interesting trend line on the weekly where you see these long lower wicks building up higher lows. So as you can see, this kind of been in this between the 50% and the 61% retracement level for about 5 weeks now. And if you look at the bottom of this wick, the bottom of this wick, the bottom of this wick, they're going just a little bit higher every single week. So it's going to be something to pay close attention to on at least the weekly time frame. If it closes below it, then I would have more confidence of a stronger move down. But keep also in mind that the length of these lower wicks are letting me know that, hey, the bulls are here to play. That is a strong support. And the reason why is because, for example, here on these candles, it opened here, came all the way down, and then the bulls push it from that point straight up to the top here. They did the same thing here. It opened up here, all the way down. They, as soon as it was at that level, pushed all the way up. And then they did it here as well with a long lower wick, opened here, boom, and then pushed itself back up in between the 50 and the 61% retracement level. So keep an eye on that trend line on the weekly. It needs to break below it to be more bearish, but the bulls might want to hold that in place. The next thing that I notice is actually just where the price closed at 28.63, right here exactly. If I zoom out of the chart, I want to go ahead and draw out a thicker line so you can see it, but notice where it closed was also a very prominent area of support and also resistance. It acted as resistance here, it broke above the resistance, then turned it into support. As you can tell, it bounced, and then kind of came up and then broke down and then acted as resistance. You can see right there on that candle, and then it finally broke up and then boom, boom, and then acted as support, a huge support right here, and then even coming over here, acted as support and then acted as resistance, and now it is quite literally acting as just, I would say, I mean, it's hard to say because it's right at that number. I would put it more as resistance because we haven't had a clear breakout of that of this line, but you know, it is too early to tell. I'd like to know your thoughts. With this big reversal candle over here, I would say I'd put it more as a resistant line than anything, but that is something to take note of. Where will it close next week? Will it close above it or below it? That might alter my view on where the stock market is heading. But it's too early to tell. Let's go ahead and hop into the daily time frame. All right, so we are here at the daily time frame. First thing I want to call out is the MACD. It's pretty flat, to be honest, but it does look like it's picking up some momentum to become more bearish. As you can see, the blue line under the orange, and it's kind of spreading, but it is still above zero. So yes, it's a lagging indicator. Don't put too much weight on it, but it does look like we're starting to see that kind of downward momentum play out, which is bearish. Next thing I want to point out is the trend line we've been talking about in recent days. Kind of looks like a somewhat of a head and shoulders pattern, right? That we had this head here, so we had the left shoulder here, the head here, there, and what we've been plotting out was, you know, how the process of where the price action has been going, where it's been going up, down, down, it tested the trend line up, tested the trend line to the downside, and then finally broke down. And then this point right here is where it touched the 50% retracement level, and we've been saying that it's going to bounce from that point and retest that trend line. Yesterday's video, if you haven't watched it, I talked about this will retest the trend line, but we'll see how close it actually got on the hourly time frame coming up next. In today's action, as you can see, even despite poor retail numbers and bad news, the market still had somewhat of a rally, still ended negative or down for the week, but it closed here on yesterday's candle, gapped down, came a little bit lower, and then pushed back up. I kind of saw this coming. That's why I really strongly believed on the retest. So it's going to be interesting to see what Monday brings, if it's going to be closing above on the daily, above this trend line, or if it's going to get rejected and move farther down past the 50% retracement level. Here is the Fibonacci retracement level. I just put that in there so you can see it a little bit more clear. This was the bottom is the 50%, the top is the 61%. This is the retest I've been talking about. So now, is it going to get rejected and head down? Is it going to just hit up here and then ping pong more back and forth? Or are we going to see finally a break above to test the 3,000 range? Still, the question remains, we're waiting for something to happen. This has been coiling up to make an aggressive move. And I feel like the aggressive move is going to be coming closer and closer as the days go by. All right, so here is the hourly time frame. This should look familiar to you. We have the trend line that has been going like just right here diagonally, and we had the point here that tested, the point here that tested it, the point here that tested it, and then we had the breakdown. And typically when you get a breakdown or a breakout, you get a retest. And that is the retest I have been talking about that we're seeing. The MACD is still below zero, but the spread is looking pretty nice on it, and it's building momentum. I do think that we'll get the retest, but I'm unsure whether it's going to break through it or get rejected. Now, as you can see, the 200 period moving average, look at all those nice wicks every time it touched it. That means this 200 period moving average on the hourly time frame is definitely support. So keep that in mind. This is a strong support. And then you have the 50-day period moving average sitting right at this trend line. So you got the bears really hiding out just right there. So that's in this really tight range. The bulls are right here, the bears are right here, and then the price action is literally right in the center, and both of them are looking at each other like, oh, who's going to take over on this little brawl? That's why I think this coil up is going to be projecting somewhat of a bigger move. All right, I promised you guys a shorter video. I hope this brought you some good information. I'm going to go ahead and call it quits here. Have a good weekend. Tomorrow's video is going to be the weekly scan. Keep an eye out on it. I'm going to throw up some charts and, kind of walk through some maybe good swing trading opportunities. Yeah, so everyone have a good weekend, and I will see you on Monday for the next SP 500 technical analysis update.